families, creating a lifetime of memories. Sadly, some families are denied these important moments due to the sad practice of alienation. These are families divided.
Hello, everyone. I'm Elaine Cobb, founder and president of Family Access, Fighting for Children's Rights, and I'm also your host and executive producer of Families Divided TV. In this segment this week, Dr. Edward Kruk will be speaking with Dr. Colleen Murray regarding the need for a multifaceted approach to addressing parental alienation. Also, I wanted to let you know our conference that is scheduled for September 9th through the 11th will now sadly have to be a virtual conference. We have spoken with our board, and due to the terrible situation with our country now with inflation and the gas prices and everything else going on with the pilots, it's making it really difficult for people to come to an in-person. So we don't want to not have it. So we are going to have to go virtual. This will give many others the opportunity to join us, and also those in other countries may register as well. The name of our conference is Healing Parental Alienation Using Better Communication and Self-Care. We have got some excellent speakers, and you really want to get involved. And we've got some really special things scheduled for you as well on both nights. So please join us and go ahead and go to our website, which is familyaccess.info, and register there. I look forward to being with you then. If you have any questions, just email me. So we'll be ready to hear Dr. Edward Kruk right after these messages.
At Victor's Crown, our focus is on you, our clients. When you arrive, our goal is that you will feel at home, from our welcoming atmosphere to our serene surroundings. Everything we do at Victor's Crown is done with our clients in mind. We have comfortable seating areas for both adults and children. A large screen TV with surround sound where clients can be occupied with wholesome entertainment while they wait. We offer complimentary refreshments such as coffee, tea, water, and snacks. Due to the present COVID pandemic, our in-person appointments are restricted to selected cases, and those are held in our luxurious outdoor open-air meeting space that we affectionately refer to as the COVID Cabana, which was built specifically for our clients to offer them the most comfortable and relaxing outdoor space available. All our other clients are offered secured web-based telemed sessions where they can connect with us from anywhere in the world.
Divorce and co-parenting are a major life interruption for families, especially the kids, but also for parents and grandparents. And it's even worse in blame-filled, high-conflict cases. When parents engage in alienation by turning the kids against the other parent or grandparents, kids suffer. They're denied the opportunity to build the 4 big skills necessary for future resilience. New Ways for Families online class can help. Parents learn to use our popular BIF and EAR skills to calm the conflict and stop the hostile emails and texts. And we even have a class for kids and parents to learn together. Research shows a 75% improvement in joint parental decision-making after this course is taken, plus overall improvements for kids' well-being. Don't wait to make this affordable investment in your children's future and improve your well-being too. Start learning new ways for your family today at conflictplaybook.com.
Hello and welcome to this segment of Families Divided. Today we have a guest with us from all the way from Canada. It's Dr. Edward Kruk, and we will be asking him about his feelings and experiences with parental alienation and the long-term effects of this on children, and how he has been able to see that this is actually a form of child abuse. Welcome, Edward. How are you today?
Oh, I'm wonderful. Looking forward to the interview.
Great. Well, thanks for being with us. I know it's kind of early where you are right now, 9 o'clock. That's kind of early. So we really appreciate you making time to be here today. So let's just kind of jump right in. And I'd like to know, in your experience, what are some of the more prevalent and devastating effects of parental alienation on children?
Well, Colleen, I would say in a nutshell, parental alienation is child abuse writ large. In these situations, children lose the capacity to give and accept love from one of their parents. They're manipulated to actually hate the parent, even though they have a desire to love and be loved by both parents. That's their natural state. But this denigration by the alienating parent results in the child's emotional rejection of the other parent, and they lose a capable and loving parent from their lives. So it's a form of emotional abuse that's every bit as debilitating as physical or sexual abuse of children. And the severe effects of parental alienation on children are really well documented now in the research. We can say that the harmful effects fall into 4 or 5 categories. The first is that we see not only poor self-esteem, but actual self-hatred in alienated children. And that's one of the more serious effects of parental alienation. Teaching a child to hate the other parent is the same as instilling self-hatred in the child, because children see themselves as being half their mother and half their father. So they internalize the hatred that they target toward the alienated parent. They're also led to believe that the alienated parent didn't love them, didn't want them, and they experience a lot of guilt related to betraying the alienated parent. That self-hatred I talk about, that depression, is rooted in feelings of being unloved by one of their parents, being separated from that parent, and being denied the opportunity to even mourn the loss of the parent or even talk about the parent. It's not an emotion, hatred of a parent. It's not an emotion that comes naturally to a child. It has to be taught. And a parent who teaches a child to hate or be afraid of the other parent is a grave and persistent danger to the mental health and emotional health of the child. So that's the first main outcome for children. Secondly, alienated children exhibit severe psychosocial disturbances because of parental alienation. That includes disrupted social emotional development, a lack of trust in relationships, a great deal of social anxiety, social isolation. They have a lot of difficulty forming and maintaining relationships. They tend to just discard people whenever they experience a negative reaction to them. They have a lack of tolerance for others. They have poor relationships with both of their parents. And adults, they tend to enter into partnerships earlier. They're more likely to divorce. They're more likely to have children outside a partnership. They're more likely to become themselves alienated from their own children. A third category would be just kind of a lack of autonomy, a lack of self-sufficiency. They have a lingering dependence on the alienating parent. They're at risk as a result of becoming psychologically vulnerable or dependent on others. A fourth category would be that these kids struggle academically. They don't reach their potential in school. They're more likely to be truant from school. They'll leave school at an early age, less likely to attain academic and professional qualifications in adulthood, more likely to experience unemployment, have low incomes. They seem to aimlessly drift through life. And finally, alienated children have a lot of difficulty controlling their impulses. They struggle with addiction and self-harm, more likely to smoke, drink alcohol, abuse drugs, succumb to behavioral addictions. They're more likely to be promiscuous. All of these are the effects. But in addition, in regard to physical and sexual abuse, children in those situations where a parent is absent from their lives are at much greater risk than children who have good relationships with both parents. So for example, I'll just thinking of a few studies, alienated children 5 times more likely to have experienced physical abuse and emotional maltreatment in their lives. They're exposed to 100 times higher risk of fatal abuse. They just have greater mortality and morbidity risks, more likely to die as children. They live an average of 4 years less over their lifespan.
Wow.
They've got a higher risk of physical health problems, psychosomatic health symptoms, acute and chronic pain, diabetes, asthma, headaches, stomach aches, feeling sick. They're more likely to experience problems with sexual health and contracting sexually transmitted infections, this kind of thing. So really, parental alienation is child abuse writ large. These are really serious effects and outcomes.
Yeah, when I listen to you talk about it, I'm thinking about the ACEs research and how this marries up very closely with the outcomes we see for children that do experience these adverse childhood incidents. And so, that's amazing. And so you practiced in your own private practice as a social worker for a while. And so my understanding is, and so that's how you came to start to really come into this field. Was it that you started seeing these things and you were like, what's the connection here? I've got to do research on it. Or how did that naturally flow for you?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And this was some years ago, before there was any research on why it is that so many parents lose contact. The term parental alienation hadn't been yet invented at that time that I undertook the research. And I did a cross-national study for my PhD, comparing parents who had been relegated to non-custodial status in both the UK and in Canada, and found some really surprising results that, in fact, these were not the deadbeat dads that they were characterized to be. In fact, they were very caring and loving parents who were devastated by the loss of their children in their lives, made every effort to have a meaningful role, but were really prevented by the alienating parent, but also the court system that excluded them from their kids' lives. They really felt a sense of learned helplessness. They were powerless to really get back into their kids' lives. They'd enjoyed good relationships with their children before the separation, and now were really struggling. So not only did the kids experience negative effects as a result of the alienation, but the parents themselves were really, full-on grief reaction, post-traumatic stress. Yeah.
So that leads me into my next question for you is if these parents are under the purview of psychologists and legal personnel, how does it reach these levels of severity, in your opinion?
Yeah, there are many theories about how parental alienation reaches such severe levels. And I think there are 2 main sources of severe parental alienation, both individual and systemic kind of factors. It's both a form of individual and collective child abuse, and I'll explain that. First of all, on an individual level, parental alienation involves many abusive strategies on the part of a parent to foster the child's rejection of the other parent. Their kids are manipulated by one parent to hate the other, and these tactics are equivalent to extreme psychological maltreatment. They include isolating a child, corrupting the child, exploiting the child, denying emotional responsiveness, spurning, terrorizing. All of these strategies sort of further the child's cohesion and alignment with the alienating parent, but at the same time, they create a psychological distance between the child and the target parent. They intensify the target parent's hurt over the child's behavior, and they incite conflict between the child and the target parent if the target parent tries to challenge the child's behavior, child's rejection. So these parents are conveying the message that, well, I'm the only parent who loves you. The other parent hates you, doesn't care for you. You need me to feel good about yourself. The other parent's dangerous, unavailable. And if you pursue a relationship with the other parent, that will jeopardize your relationship with me. So, these parents, their hatred of the other parent, their desire to hurt the other parent is stronger than their love for their child. And, one theory is that these alienating behaviors are a sign of the parent's inability to separate from the couple conflict and focus on the needs of the child. But they're really a reflection of severe pathology. And increasingly, we have evidence that alienation is often born in the trauma from the childhood of the alienating parent. And the alienation process is a means of putting onto the target parent the experience of their own childhood trauma. So the childhood trauma leads to the development of the aggression behind parental alienation. So they're kind of reenacting their childhood trauma in the current family relationships. It's a false drama created by the pathology of the alienating parent. So the target parent is kind of
they're just projecting it. So they're just projecting it onto their children. It's not really happening.
Projecting onto the target parent as an abusive parent. They're the child is being induced into accepting the trauma reenactment role as the supposedly victimized child. The alienating parent adopts the role of the protective parent, but none of this false drama is true. It's the parenting of the target parent is entirely fine. The child is in no danger, doesn't need protection from the alienating parent. So that's one source of the alienation. But the other is the fact that parental alienation is also a form of collective abuse, a form of systemic abuse, with the family law system as the main culprit. So parental alienation flourishes in those states in which judges have the discretion to remove children from the custody of both their parents and place a child in the care of one parent only. In those countries and states where shared parenting is the foundation of family law, we see parental alienation to be much less of a problem. So this winner-take-all, sole custody-based family law system is almost custom designed to produce parental alienation and these really horrific outcomes for children, because it pits parents against each other. It kind of sets them up to denigrate each other in an effort to win custody. Parents not only have to prove themselves to be superior to the other parent, but they have to show the other parent is inferior, deficient, less capable. So the family law system not only encourages parental alienation, it engages in parental alienation.
So it sounds like it's kind of a two-pronged issue, like minus one, either the legal portion of it where they're taking away, or minus the childhood trauma being an issue. It won't ever reach these levels because there's no avenue forward, right? Because it sounds like in the legal case, if there's a shared parenting baseline, that instead of being an adversarial where I'm trying to prove that you're terrible, I'm trying to prove that I'm great. Right?
Exactly.
So it's just the opposite. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I'd say, what we expect of parents, they endeavor to provide. If we expect them to denigrate each other and set them up to do that, that's what they'll do. But if we expect that they're going to cooperate and we establish kind of a legal foundation of shared parenting as the foundation of family law, then parents will respond in a more positive way. And we see that around the globe. in those countries that have established shared parenting as the norm.
So what do you think are some of the things that can be done to help reduce the risk of an incidence of parental alienation?
Well, I'd say the first thing is that we need to have a child-focused approach to addressing parental alienation. That will, kind of keep a primary focus on the child, and that will reduce the risk and incidence and address the best interests of children from the perspective of the child in those separation situations. So that really requires an understanding of children's needs in the separation transition period, and then a corresponding set of parental responsibilities and societal responsibilities to those needs of children. We know, I think, very well that the two key factors in children's adjustment to the consequences of divorce are, first of all, the maintenance of meaningful relationships with both their parents. And secondly, it's vital that children are shielded from ongoing parental conflict and family violence. I don't think there's like a magic bullet in regard to reducing or eliminating parental alienation, but I'd say that we need kind of a multifaceted approach combining both macro level and micro level interventions, both structural changes as well as individualized responses to each case of parental alienation. So I would say that, I believe the best way forward is a four-tiered approach or a four-pillar approach to addressing parental alienation, which consists, first of all, of a child protection response, which involves addressing parental alienation as a form of child abuse and therefore a child protection issue. Secondly, prevention, and establishing a rebuttable legal presumption of shared parental parenting as the foundation of family law to prevent parental alienation from happening in the first place. Thirdly, therapeutic programs, which include both services for alienated parents and children, but also family reunification programs. And fourthly, legal interventions, which involve addressing parental alienation as a form of domestic violence and as such a criminal matter. I can say a little bit more about each of these. I guess we have a little time, or how are we doing for time?
We're doing great with time. We have about 5 minutes. One thing that I think would be really helpful for our audience is if you could kind of drill down a little bit on how do you talk to people about this being child abuse? Because I know there's a big pushback here in the States. I don't know what it's like in Canada when you even approach the idea that this is child abuse. We get a lot of pushback for that. So maybe that might be good to drill down on for the next couple of minutes.
Sure. So, this is, I would say, here we are in 2022, there's much more recognition of the reality of parental alienation among service providers and the professionals, as well as the public. But there's still a lot of misunderstanding and misperceptions. I would say it's vitally important that professionals in the family law system and also in the child protection systems be thoroughly trained about the reality of parental alienation. For example, recognition by child welfare authorities that this is a form of individual child abuse that requires a child protection response, beginning with a thorough investigation and assessment of parental alienation when it's suspected, and then providing family support programs and family preservation programs with support from child protection family service workers. It can also involve child removal from an alienating parent to allow a child to reestablish a relationship with the target parent. So we need to educate parents, professionals, family law practitioners about the effects of alienation, and also train people to become specialists in this field especially when it comes to reunification processes between children and targeted parents. There's really a lack of training in this area. And so I'd say, both family law professionals and child welfare professionals need a lot of support to get there, to deal with some of the misunderstandings, misperceptions, and myths surrounding parental alienation. There have been over 1,000 articles in the past 5 to 10 years on parental alienation. We know that the incidence of it is high. We know that the effects are devastating on children and target parents. And yet it's still kind of an unrecognized form of child abuse. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean. Go ahead and finish. Go ahead and finish up what you were saying. I was just going to let you know we were just about out of time.
Oh, good. Well, I would say, talk about this second pillar of prevention because, I think we need more than anything else. If I was to say one thing, one suggestion to ameliorate parental alienation, it would be to establish shared parenting as the foundation of family law. That's the single most effective method to address parental alienation as a form of child abuse. It's most in keeping with what we know about the best interests of children of separation and divorce. So recognition that the current adversarial system promotes and intensifies parental conflict, which dramatically increases the prevalence of parental alienation, that it's a form of collective child abuse. Because alienation much more likely to occur, in those jurisdictions where custody is granted to one parent only when parents disagree over living arrangements.
Sure.
Where shared parenting is the norm, it's much less likely to occur.
So it sounds like the two takeaways for our audience is training and really getting to their senators and our congressmen here in the States to really get the laws changed to make sure that we have shared parenting as the law of the land, instead of the assumption that one parent is better than the other, because all the research shows that children need both parents.
Absolutely. And
this has been so engaging for me. This, of course, is a passion for me, and I could just listen all day long, but we are out of time, unfortunately. I really hope that you'll come back and join us again soon. So thank you so much for being here today. We truly appreciate you taking time out of your day.
Yeah, my pleasure, Colleen. Thank you.
And to our audience, we thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next time on Families Divided. Thank you.
Next week on Families Divided, Dr. Mary Alvarez will speak to us about understanding and dealing with abuse allegations.